I was in the garden when he brought it to me. The morning was cool and clear. My roses needed pruning. I felt the damp soil through my knees of my trousers. It was a Tuesday. Edward approached from the house. He carried a folder in one hand. His reading glasses were perched on his head. He smiled. It was his efficient smile. "There you are, Claire," he said. He stood over me. "I've finally updated my will." He said it like it was a chore completed. Like cleaning the gutters. I sat back on my heels. I wiped my hands on a cloth. "All right," I said. It seemed a normal thing. He was 68. I was 66. We went inside to the kitchen. He laid the folder on the oak table. He opened it. He had 2 copies. Everything was neat. "The lawyer suggested some modernizations," he said. He handed me a pen. "It's mostly the same." He pointed to a flagged page. "Just sign here, darling." He said it softly. "And here." I looked at the lines. I saw my name printed. Claire Elizabeth Vaughn. The pen was heavy. It was a nice pen. A gift from our son. I signed the first copy. I signed the second. Edward smiled again. He gathered the papers. He closed the folder. "All done," he said. He kissed my forehead. One less thing to worry about. He took the folder to his study. I heard the drawer of his desk slide shut. The lock clicked. I went back to my roses. The sun was warmer now. I remember the smell of the earth. I remember thinking the thorns were particularly sharp that year. Our life was quiet. It had been quiet for years. The children were grown. Mark lived in Chicago. Lydia was in London. They called every Sunday. They visited at Christmas. Edward retired 5 years ago. He had been a partner at an actuarial firm. He liked order. He liked predictability. I had been a librarian. I retired earlier. I liked my garden. I liked my books. We had a routine. Edward made coffee at 7. I made breakfast. We read the paper. He handled the finances. I managed the house. It was a balance. It felt like a partnership. The house was ours. We bought it 40 years ago. It was a large, old stone house in Connecticut. It needed constant care. We gave it that care. Together. After signing the will, nothing changed. Not immediately. Edward was perhaps more attentive. He started handling the grocery orders. He said it was to save me the trip. He took over scheduling the gardener. He said the man was overcharging me. "Let me deal with it, Claire," he said. "You have enough with your roses." It felt like care. It felt like love. Then he suggested we consolidate our accounts. "It's simpler for taxes," he explained. We sat at his computer. He showed me charts. He used words like liquidity and estate efficiency. "My pension is the stable income," he said. "It makes sense to have everything flow from one pot." I trusted him. He had always managed the money. We went to the bank together. We closed my savings account. We moved everything into a joint account. His name was first. Edward J. Vaughn and Claire E. Vaughn. The banker was friendly. He called Edward Sir. He nodded at everything Edward said. "A wise move," the banker said. "Simplifies everything for the future." I signed the forms. Edward held the pen for me. He pointed to each line. His finger was steady. That afternoon, he bought me a bracelet. It was gold. It had a delicate clasp. For being so understanding, he said. He fastened it on my wrist. It was a little tight. I didn't mention it. The first real change was subtle. It was about the car. My car was 10 years old. It was a reliable sedan. I drove it to the library. I drove it to the nursery. One evening, Edward said it needed new brakes. It's not safe, Claire, he said. I've scheduled a service. He took it the next day. He returned with a loaner. A small red compact car. Yours needs a part, he said. It will take a week. The loaner was unfamiliar. The seat was set for someone shorter. I felt cramped. A week passed. Then 2. I asked about my car. Complex repair, Edward said. These older models. He patted my hand. Use the loaner for now. He began using my sedan. He said his SUV was getting poor mileage. He took my car to his club meetings. I was left with the little red car. It was hard to get into. The visibility was poor. I stopped driving to the next town. I stayed closer to home. One day, I saw my sedan in the driveway. It looked fine. I asked if it was fixed. Oh, that, Edward said. It's running, but the mechanic found other issues. He shook his head. It's a money pit, Claire. We should think about replacing it. He never said I couldn't drive it. He just always had a reason why he needed it, or why it was inconvenient for me. The narrative became that I preferred not to drive far. Claire's eyes aren't what they were, he told our friend Martin. He said it with concern. I was standing right there. The glare at night bothers her, he said. I hadn't said that, but I didn't correct him. It seemed easier. Martin nodded sympathetically. Better to be cautious, he said. My world shrank to the house. The garden. The grocery store 2 miles away. Edward did all the other driving. He did all the shopping. He bought the groceries. He bought my clothes. I saw this and thought of you, he'd say. The clothes were never quite my size. The colors were wrong. I thanked him. I wore them. Then came the phone. I had a simple smartphone. The children insisted. I used it for photos of the garden. I used it for calls. Edward said he was worried about scams. These calls to the elderly are terrible, he said. Let me put some safeguards on it. He took my phone one evening. He was in his study for an hour. When he gave it back, it looked different. The icons were rearranged. A new app was installed. This monitors for spam, he said. It also lets me see if you're getting too many nuisance calls. He said it was for my protection. Soon, the phone became difficult. My messages would sometimes fail to send. My calls to Lydia would drop. Edward said it was the network. The coverage here is spotty, he said. Use the landline for important calls. The landline was in the kitchen. It was in the open. Our conversations became shorter, more public. Lydia asked if something was wrong. You seem distant, Mom, she said. Is everything okay? I looked at Edward. He was reading at the table. He seemed not to listen. Everything's fine, darling, I said. Just the usual. I didn't know what else to say. The words felt thick in my throat. The first betrayal was quiet. It was about the lake house. My father left me the lake house. It was in New Hampshire. It was small and rustic. It was full of summer memories. The children loved it. We hadn't gone in a few years. Edward said the drive was too long. He said the stairs were bad for his knees. In April, He told me he had a wonderful surprise. "I've taken care of the lake house burden," he said. He was beaming. Martin's nephew is a property manager. He found a long-term tenant. A corporate lease. Very stable income. I felt a coldness in my chest. "You rented it out?" I asked. "Without telling me." His smile faltered. It became patient. "Claire, we talked about this. You said you were tired of worrying about it. You said the upkeep was a headache." I did not remember saying that. I remembered saying I missed it. I remembered saying I wished we could visit. "When did I say that?" I asked. My voice was quiet. He sighed. He put his hand over mine. "A few months ago, sweetheart. You were stressed about the property tax bill. Don't you remember?" He looked genuinely concerned. "I mentioned renting it, and you said, 'Do what you think is best.' You've been so forgetful lately." I searched my memory. I remembered the tax bill. I remembered discussing it. I did not remember consenting to a lease. But the doubt was there. Had I forgotten? Was my memory slipping? "How long is the lease?" I asked. 5 years, he said, with an option to renew. "It's perfect. The income will go into our joint account. It will help with expenses." He had done it. He had framed it as a gift. A solution to a problem. My asset was now our income. I had no control over it. For at least 5 years. I felt erased. It was a quiet, hollow feeling. I nodded. "That's efficient," I said. He kissed my cheek. "That's my practical girl," he said. I began to pay attention. I started a notebook. A small leather-bound book. I kept it in my gardening basket. Under the trowels and gloves. I wrote down facts. Dates. Conversations. I did not write down feelings. Just events. I noted the day Edward changed the password on the home computer. I noted the day he added his name to my safe deposit box. He called it estate planning. I went with him. I signed. The bank officer was the same man. He smiled at Edward. He barely looked at me. I noted the Sunday calls with the children. Edward always spoke first. He gave the news. He framed our life. "Your mother's garden is coming along," he'd say. "She's a bit tired today, but she sends her love." He would hand me the phone. "Don't talk too long, Claire," he'd whisper. "You know it wears you out." I began to hear the narrative he was building. Claire is fatting. Claire is fragile. Claire is forgetful. It was a soft, steady campaign. No one event was dramatic. It was the accumulation. My friend Marion visited in June. We had tea on the patio. Edward joined us. He brought out the cookies I had baked. "Claire made these," he said, though she nearly forgot them in the oven. He laughed. A gentle, affectionate laugh. I had to set a timer for her. Marion laughed too. "We all do that, Edward." I had not forgotten the cookies. The timer had buzzed. I was in the garden. Edward had taken them out. He had turned the oven off. Now it was a story of my lapse. After Marion left, I felt a new clarity. It was cold and sharp. This was not care. This was control. It was a slow-motion dismantling. Piece by piece. Asset by asset. Autonomy by autonomy. I needed to understand the will. The will I had signed. That was the key document. It would tell me his endgame. But the will was in his locked desk drawer. I did not have the key. I needed a copy. I needed a lawyer. but I had no car I could rely on. My finances were in a joint account. He saw the statements. Any unusual withdrawal would raise questions. I had to be patient. I had to be careful. I started taking walks. Long walks. Edward approved. Good for your circulation, he said. I walked to the town library. It was a 2-mile walk. I used the computer there. I created a new email address. A private one. I researched lawyers. Elder law. Estates. I looked for firms in the next county. I read reviews. I was methodical. I found one. Her name was Amanda Pierce. Her bio said she specialized in fiduciary abuse, capacity disputes. Her photo showed a woman in her 50s. She had steady eyes. I wrote down her number. I did not call yet. I needed money of my own. I remembered my mother's jewelry. It was in my safe deposit box. But Edward's name was now on it. He could access it. I needed to move it. But I couldn't go to the bank alone. He always drove. Then I remembered the bracelet. The tight gold bracelet he had given me. I never wore it. It was in my jewelry box. It was heavy. It was real gold. On my next walk, I went to a small pawn shop. It was 3 towns over. I took the bus. The bracelet was worth more than I thought. The man behind the counter gave me cash. $800. I took it. I put the money in an envelope. I hid it in the spine of an old book in the library. A biography of Eleanor Roosevelt. No one ever checked it out. I had resources now. I had a plan. It was a small plan. But it was mine. The next phase began with my health. Edward scheduled a doctor's appointment for me. A full physical. Just routine, he said. At our age, we need to be vigilant. He came into the exam room with me. He answered the doctor's questions. Her sleep has been erratic, Edward said. She sometimes forgets her afternoon medication. The doctor, a young man named Dr. Evans, nodded. He typed on his tablet. Mrs. Vaughn, do you feel confused at times? Dr. Evans asked. He was kind. No, I said. I feel fine. Edward made a soft, sighing sound. She's proud, he said. She doesn't like to admit it. He put a hand on my shoulder. Last week, she left the stove burner on. I found it hours later. That was a lie. It was a complete lie. My heart beat faster. I looked at Edward. His face was a mask of concern. I started. It's all right, Claire, Edward said softly. No one is blaming you. Dr. Evans looked at me with professional sympathy. We should run some cognitive tests, he said, just to establish a baseline. It's very common. I agreed to the tests. What choice did I have? Refusing would look like denial, like confirmation of the problem. The tests were scheduled for 2 weeks later. Edward marked it on the kitchen calendar. In red pen. That night, I lay awake. The silence in our bedroom was absolute. Edward slept soundly beside me. I thought about the stove. I had not left it on. I knew I had not. But the lie was now in my medical record. It was a seed of doubt about my competence. I got up. I went to my gardening notebook. In the dark, I wrote down the date. I wrote, E told Dr. Evans I left stove on. False. The pen scratched in the quiet. It was a small act of defiance. It was a record. A true record. I called Amanda Pierce from the library. I used a payphone. I had never used one before. It felt strangely clandestine. I explained the situation. I kept my voice calm. I stuck to facts. The will signing. The account consolidation. The car. The lake house lease. The doctor's appointment. I did not call him a monster. I called him my husband. I said I was concerned about my legal standing. There was a long pause on the line. "Mrs. Vaughn," Amanda Pierce said. Her voice was calm. "What you're describing is a pattern. It's often a prelude to a guardianship petition, or an attempt to isolate you prior to a larger asset transfer. The will is critical. Do you have a copy?" I told her I did not. I told her it was locked in his desk. "We need to get a copy," she said, without alerting him. "Do you have any allies? Anyone who might help you access it?" I thought. I had no one nearby. Marian was a friend, but she believed Edward's narrative. My children were far away. They trusted their father. Then I thought of someone. Leo. Leo was the son of our former housekeeper. He was in his 30s. He did odd jobs for us sometimes. He had fixed our fence last spring. He was quiet. He was observant. He had seen Edward speak to me like a child once. I had caught his eye. He had looked away, uncomfortable. "There might be someone," I said. "Be very careful," Amanda Pierce said. "If he suspects you are acting against him, he may accelerate his plans. He may file for emergency guardianship. Based on the doctor's notes. Do the cognitive tests. Do well on them. Be utterly normal." She agreed to represent me. Her retainer was $3,000. I had $800. I told her I would get the rest. She said she would send an engagement letter to my library email. I gave her the address. "From this moment," she said, "assume all home devices are monitored. Assume your mail is seen. Assume nothing is private. We will communicate through the library email. Or this payphone. Memorize my number." I memorized it. I walked home. My mind was clear for the first time in months. I had a direction. I had an ally. The fear was still there, but it was a clean fear, not a confused one. I approached Leo the next week. Edward was at his club. I asked Leo to look at the leaking faucet in my potting shed. While he worked, I spoke quietly. "Leo, I need a favor," I said. "A strange one. It involves my husband." He stopped tinkering. He looked at me. His eyes were dark and thoughtful. "What kind of favor?" he asked. "I need to open a locked desk drawer," I said. "Just once. To make a copy of a single document. Then return it. No one can know." He was silent for a long time. He wiped his hands on his jeans. "Is he hurting you, Mrs. V?" "Not in the way you mean," I said. "He is taking my life apart. Piece by piece. This document is the blueprint." Leo looked at the ground. He nodded slowly. "My mom, she was in a bad marriage. No one helped her. When can I do it?" We made a plan. Edward had a dermatologist appointment. He would be gone for 2 hours. Leo would come to fix the gutter downspout. He would have time alone in the study. The day arrived. Edward left at 1 o'clock. Leo arrived at 1:15. I let him in. My hands were trembling. I showed him the study. The desk was an old, solid piece. The drawer had a simple lock. A lock a skilled hand could pick. "I'll be in the garden," I said. "If you find it, it's a legal document. My last will and testament. There should be 2 copies. Just take one. Please don't read it. He nodded. I'm just fixing a gutter, he said. He gave me a slight smile. I waited by the roses. I pruned the same branch 3 times. 20 minutes later, Leo came out. He had his toolbox. He shook his head slightly. As no. My heart sank. Then he patted his toolbox. A soft thump. He had it. Gutter's clear, he said loudly for any neighbors. I'll be on my way. He mouthed, library tomorrow. I nodded. He left. I went inside. The study looked untouched. The drawer was locked. Everything was in order. I made a pot of tea. My hands would not stop shaking. Edward returned. He talked about his appointment. A benign mole. Nothing to worry about. He seemed cheerful. He seemed normal. The man I had loved for 45 years. I smiled. I poured his tea. I felt like I was made of glass. The next day, I walked to the library. Leo was waiting by the biography section. He handed me a large, plain envelope. It was in the back of the drawer, he whispered. Under some files. I made a copy at the UPS store. The original is back in place. He won't know. I took the envelope. It was heavy. Thank you, Leo, I said. My voice broke. Be safe, Mrs. V, he said. He left quickly. I went to study Carol in the corner. I opened the envelope. I pulled out the copy. It was Edward's last will and testament. 23 pages long. I began to read. The first parts were standard. Revocation of prior wills. Appointment of executor. Edward named himself as executor of his own estate. Then, in the event he predeceased me, he named our son Mark. That was normal. Then I got to the section about me. Article 4, bequest to spouse. The language was legal, but the meaning was clear. I was not given our home. I was not given any assets outright. Instead, the will created a testamentary trust. Upon Edward's death, all his assets would pour into this trust. The house, the investments, the proceeds from the lake house lease. Everything. I would be the income beneficiary. I would receive a monthly allowance. The allowance was to be determined by the trustee. The trustee was our son, Mark. The trustee had sole discretion. He could pay for my health, maintenance, and support. He could decide what that meant. The trustee could also invade the principal for my medical emergencies. As defined by the trustee, I had no right to demand distributions. I had no control over the assets. I could not sell the house. I could not invest the money. I was a dependent for the rest of my life. Upon my death, the remaining trust assets would pass to our children. Equally, I was a conduit, a temporary holder of nothing. But it was worse. Buried in Article 7 was a clause, a single paragraph. It stated that if, in the sole opinion of the trustee, I lacked the capacity to manage my allowance, the trustee could appoint a guardian for my person. The trustee could then pay my allowance directly to the guardian or care facility. Mark could decide I was incompetent. He could put me in a home. He could control every penny. And Mark lived in Chicago. Mark was busy. Mark adored his father. Mark believed his father was logical. Mark would trust his father's judgment. I sat in the library carrel. The fluorescent light hummed. I read the clause again. And again. It was a legal cage. beautifully constructed, impossible to see from the outside. I had signed it on a sunny morning in the garden. He had said it was a formality. This was the plan. Isolate me, diminish me, document my decline, then die. Or perhaps, if I resisted too much, have me declared incompetent before he died. The will was the final, locking mechanism. It would perpetuate his control from beyond the grave. I took a deep breath. I did not cry. I felt a terrible, focused calm. I took out my notebook. I wrote down the clause verbatim. I noted the page number. Then I went to the library scanner. I scanned the entire document. I saved it to a USB drive. I bought from the pawn shop money. I emailed the scan to Amanda Pierce from my library email with the subject line, "Blueprint received." Then I walked home. The autumn leaves were turning. The air was crisp. I knew what I had to do. It was no longer about saving my marriage. It was about saving my life. I arrived home just before 5. Edward was in the kitchen. He was making a shopping list. "There you are," he said. He didn't look up. "You were gone a long time." His tone was light, but it was a question. "The library was busy," I said. I put my bag on a chair. I lost track of time. I filled a glass with water. My hand was steady. "Did you get a nice book?" he asked. He finally looked at me. His eyes searched my face. "A biography," I said. "Eleanor Roosevelt. She was a formidable woman." I held his gaze. He smiled. "I'm sure she was," he said. He returned to his list. "We need milk." The normality of it was chilling. We were 2 people in a kitchen, discussing milk, while a war sat silently between us. I completed the cognitive tests. I went with Edward. He was, of course, in the waiting room. Dr. Evans administered them himself. They were puzzles, memory games, pattern recognition. I concentrated. I was methodical. I took my time. At one point, Dr. Evans asked me to remember 3 words. Apple penny table. He talked for 5 minutes about other things. Then he asked me to recall them. "Apple penny table," I said. He nodded. He made a note. He asked me to draw a clock, to set the hands to 10 past 11. I drew the circle. I placed the numbers. I drew the 2 hands, long and short, precisely. He asked me what year it was. Who was the president? What season? I answered. All correct. The test ended. Dr. Evans smiled. "You did very well, Mrs. Vaughn," he said. "These are excellent baseline scores. No indications of impairment." Edward seemed pleased, and also, I thought, slightly disappointed. A flicker in his eyes. Then it was gone. "That's a relief, doctor," Edward said. He put his arm around my shoulders. "But the memory lapses at home." He let it hang. "Stress can mimic many symptoms," Dr. Evans said. "Or lack of sleep. The mind is a tricky thing." He closed my file. "I see no medical reason for concern." It was a victory. A small procedural victory. It went into my record. I had proof of my own competence against his anecdotal lies. But I knew it wouldn't stop him. It was a setback, not a defeat. For him, Amanda Pierce's email was waiting at the library. It was succinct. "Claire received the document. It's a supportive trust, highly restrictive, common in financial abuse. We need to act before any incapacity narrative solidifies. Your first priority, secure independent assets. Do you have anything solely in your name? Anything he cannot access? Secondly, we need to revoke your power of attorney. Do you recall giving him one? I stared at the screen. Power of attorney. I searched my memory. Months ago. There was a stack of papers. Edward said they were estate planning updates. A durable power of attorney for finances. A healthcare proxy. I had signed them. He said everyone should have them. In case of emergency. I trusted him. I signed. I typed back. Yes, I signed a financial POA, probably over a year ago. I have no independent assets now. Everything is joint, except the lake house. It's in my name, but leased. Her reply came quickly. The POA is a critical vulnerability. He can use it to act as you. We must revoke it immediately. I will draft a revocation. You must sign it and have it notarized. He cannot be present. Then we must file it with every institution where you have an account. The bank, the brokerage, the utility companies. It creates a legal paper trail. It puts them on notice. It will also alert him. I felt a jolt of fear. Alert him. That was the dangerous part. Once he knew I was fighting, the quiet phase would end. The pressure would increase. What will he do? I typed. Predictable escalation, she replied. He may try to isolate you further. He may move to liquidate assets. He may accelerate a guardianship petition. We must be ready with counterfilings. We must have your own medical evaluation on record. We need to secure your physical safety. Physical safety. The words were stark. This was my husband, the father of my children. We were talking about safety. I am not in physical danger, I wrote. Financial isolation is a form of violence, she wrote back. It creates dependence. Dependence creates vulnerability. We must secure a physical safe haven. Do you have a place you can go? If needed. I thought of the lake house. It was leased. I thought of Marion. She was a friend, but her loyalty was untested. My children were far away. And they were his children too. Not yet, I typed. Begin to formulate a plan, she wrote. Quietly. Now, regarding the will, you cannot revoke his will, but you can make your own, a new will. It will supersede any prior ones. It will clearly state your wishes. It will name your own executor. It is a declaration of autonomy. We will do this after the POA revocation. It was a to-do list. A legal battle plan. Each step was a declaration of war. In my quiet, dignified war. I understand, I typed. Send the documents. The revocation of power of attorney was a single page. It was written in clear, forceful language. I, Claire Elizabeth Vaughn, hereby revoke any and all powers of attorney previously granted to Edward James Vaughn. It needed my signature. A notary's seal. I went to the UPS store. They had a notary. I told the young woman I was updating my estate documents. She didn't blink. I signed. She stamped it. She recorded it in her book. Date, time, my driver's license number. It was done. A tiny act of immense consequence. I made 10 copies. I mailed the original to Amanda Pierce. I put one copy in my library book. I put one in an envelope addressed to myself. I mailed it from a distant post office. It would create a dated postmark. Evidence. The next step was the hard one. Filing it with the bank. I went to our local branch. I asked to speak to the manager. The same banker from before. Mr. Henderson. He greeted me warmly. He led me to his office. "Mrs. Vaughn, how nice to see you," he said. "Is Mr. Vaughn with you?" "No," I said. I sat down. I placed my purse on my lap. "I have a legal document I need to add to our account file." I handed him the notarized revocation. He took it. He read it. His smile faded. He looked up at me. His expression was cautious. "Professional. This is a revocation of a financial power of attorney," he said. "Regarding your husband." "Yes," I said. My voice was calm. "I am updating my arrangements. Please note it on all accounts where I am a signatory. Effective immediately." He hesitated. "Mrs. Vaughn, this is unusual. The joint account requires only one signature. But this will prevent Mr. Vaughn from acting solely on your behalf, on any accounts in your name. Are you sure?" "I am sure," I said. I looked at him. I did not blink. "It is my legal right. Please process it." He nodded slowly. He called in an assistant. He made copies. He placed one in a filing folder. He typed on his computer. The keys clicked loudly. "It's done," he said. "He will be notified on his next statement, or if he attempts to transact on your behalf. Is there anything else?" "Yes," I said. "I would like the withdrawal slips for our joint savings account and a balance inquiry." He printed the balance. The number was healthy, substantial, our life savings. He handed me a pad of withdrawal slips. I took 3. I thanked him. I left. I walked to a different bank, 2 towns over, a national chain. I opened a new savings account, in my name only. I used the address of the library's post office box. I had rented it the week before, for $20 a month. I deposited $500 from my pawn shop money. It was a seed. When I got home, Edward was on the phone. He was in his study. The door was almost closed. I heard his voice. Low, urgent, preposterous, clearly confused, the stress. He was talking to someone about me. I went to the kitchen. I started dinner. Chicken and rice. A simple meal. He liked it. He came out 30 minutes later. His face was tight. He poured himself a drink. Scotch. He rarely drank before 6. "Claire," he said. He didn't look at me. I had a very strange call from Martin Henderson. "At the bank." "Oh," I said. I stirred the rice. "He said you filed some paperwork. A revocation." His voice was controlled, but the anger simmered beneath. "What is that about?" I turned to face him. "I revoked your power of attorney, Edward." I said it plainly. I decided I should manage my own affairs. He set his glass down. "Hard. Your affairs." "Our affairs, Claire. We are a married couple. Why would you do such a thing?" Without discussing it, he used his reasonable tone, but his eyes were cold. "There was nothing to discuss," I said. "It was a document I no longer wanted in place. I have the right to revoke it." I did. He took a step closer. "People will think something is wrong. They'll think we're having problems, or that you're not well." He reached for my hand. I moved it away. "I am perfectly well," I said. "As Dr. Evans confirmed. My reasons are my own." He stared at me. The mask slipped. For a second, I saw raw frustration. A plan interrupted. Then the mask returned. Concern. Paternal concern. I'm worried about you, Claire. This is erratic behavior. First the long walks. Now secret banking. Maybe we should talk to Dr. Evans again. Maybe it's anxiety. I am not anxious, I said. I am clear. I turned back to the stove. The conversation was over. He stood behind me for a full minute. Silent. I could feel his gaze. Then he walked away. He went back to his study. The door closed softly. The lock clicked. That night, I lay awake again. I heard him on the phone. Very late. Whispering. I couldn't make out words. Just the cadence of strategy. The quiet war was over. The active siege had begun. The first legal document arrived 2 weeks later. It came by certified mail. I was in the garden. Edward signed for it. He brought the envelope to me. His face was a portrait of grave concern. Claire, he said, this is addressed to you. From the probate court. He held it out, like it was a dead bird. I took it. I wiped my hands. I opened it. It was a petition. In the matter of the guardianship of Claire Elizabeth Vaughan, filed by Edward James Vaughan. My husband was asking the court to declare me an incapacitated person, to appoint him as my guardian of person and estate. Permanently. The supporting documents were attached. An affidavit from Edward, listing my erratic behavior, the stove incident, the forgotten medication, the secretive bank visit, my isolation from friends, my paranoia about him. He stated he feared for my financial safety and my physical well-being. There was a second affidavit from Dr. Evans. It was brief. It stated I had undergone cognitive testing. The scores were normal, but it noted that test scores alone do not rule out functional impairment in the home setting. It quoted Edward's concerns about my day-to-day decision-making. It was carefully worded, non-committal, but it lent a veneer of medical credibility. The hearing was scheduled for 45 days away. In the probate court, a judge would decide. If Edward won, I would be a legal child. He would control every penny, every decision, where I lived, what doctor I saw, everything. The will would be irrelevant. He would have one while still alive. I read the papers calmly. I looked at Edward. You're petitioning to become my guardian, I said. I have to, Claire, he said. His eyes were sad. You're not yourself. This latest stunt with the bank. You're vulnerable. I can't stand by and watch you make terrible choices. I love you too much. It was a masterpiece. He was the devoted husband, forced to take painful legal action to protect his erratic wife from herself. The narrative was perfect. I see, I said. I folded the papers. I will, of course, contest this. Of course you will, he said. He sounded weary. That's part of the illness, darling. Lack of insight. He reached to touch my hair. I stepped back. Do not touch me, I said. My voice was ice. It surprised us both. He dropped his hand. The hearing is in November, he said. The court will appoint a guardian ad litem, a lawyer to represent your interests. They will interview us both. They will examine the evidence. The truth will come out clear. Yes, I said. It will. I took the papers to my room. I locked the door. I called Amanda Pierce from my cell phone. It was a risk, But it was an emergency. She answered on the second ring. Claire. He filed, I said. Guardianship petition. I expected it, she said. Her voice was calm. Steadying. It's the classic next move. We have 45 days. We need to move quickly. First, we file a formal objection. Second, we demand an independent medical evaluation by a geriatric psychiatrist of our choosing. Third, we subpoena his financial records and the lake house lease. We turn the light on his motives. What about the children? I asked. My voice trembled. What will they think? You must call them, she said. Before he does, you must tell them your side. Calmly, factually. They may not believe you, but you must plant the seed. I called Mark that evening. Edward was out, at a meeting. I didn't know where. Mark answered. He sounded busy. Hi, Mum, what's up? Mark, I need to tell you something important, I said. I kept my voice even. Your father has filed a petition in court to have me declared incapacitated, to become my legal guardian. There was a long silence. What? That's Mum, that's insane. What are you talking about? I explained. Briefly. The will. The accounts. The doctor. The petition. I did not call his father a villain. I said I believed his father was acting out of a misplaced sense of control. I said I was contesting it. Mum, this sounds, he struggled. Dad would never do that. He loves you. Maybe you're misunderstanding. His doubt was palpable. It was a knife twist. I am not misunderstanding Mark, I said. I have the court papers. I can send them to you. I wanted you to hear it from me first. Send them, he said. His voice was cold. I need to talk to Dad. He hung up. I called Lydia. Her reaction was different. Shock. Then fury. He's doing what? The absolute bastard. Mum, are you safe? Her belief was immediate. It was a lifeline. I am safe for now, I said. But it's going to be difficult. I'm coming home, she said. Next week. I'll stay with you. No, I said. Not yet. Your presence might escalate things. Let the lawyers handle the first phase. But thank you, darling. Your belief, it helps. I hung up. I felt divided. One child doubted. One believed. It was a preview of the family fracture to come. It was inevitable. The guardian ad litem was a woman named Sarah Cohen. She was in her 40s. Sharp. Professional. She came to the house to interview me. Edward insisted on being present. Ms. Cohen refused. My role is to represent Mrs. Vaughn's expressed wishes, she said. I need to speak with her alone, in a neutral setting. We met at a coffee shop. She ordered tea. I ordered water. She placed a small recorder on the table. Do you consent to this recording? She asked. I nodded. Yes. She asked me questions for 2 hours. She asked about my marriage, my health, my finances. She asked why I thought Edward was doing this. I showed her my notebook, the timeline, the facts. I showed her a copy of the will. I pointed to the trust clause. She took notes. She didn't react, but her eyes were attentive. Do you feel you are unable to manage your financial affairs? She asked. No, I said. I managed a library budget for 20 years. I have opened my own bank account. I pay my own small bills. I understand my assets. Do you feel you are unable to make healthcare decisions? No. I have made all my own appointments for decades. I understand my medications. I have no chronic conditions. What is your wish regarding this petition? I want it dismissed, I said. I want to retain my legal autonomy. I want a separation of our finances. I want to live independently. She asked about the stove incident, the forgotten medication. I told her they were fabrications or misunderstandings. I told her about my perfect cognitive test scores. She had a copy of the report. She finished. She turned off the recorder. I will also be interviewing your husband, she said, and your treating physician. And I will review all the financial documents. My report to the court will be confidential, but it will carry significant weight. Do you believe me? I asked. The question escaped. I hadn't meant to ask it. She gave me a careful, professional smile. My job isn't to believe or disbelieve, she said. It's to ascertain your capacity and your wishes, and to determine if the petition has merit. You present as coherent, organized, and possessed of factual understanding. That will be in my report. It was something, not an ally, but a neutral observer, who found me competent. It was a brick in my wall. Edward's interview with her did not go as he planned. He told me about it afterward. He was furious. She was hostile, he said. She asked invasive questions about our finances, about the lake house lease, about why I added myself to your safe deposit box. She's looking for ulterior motives. It's outrageous. They are reasonable questions, I said. I was setting the table. 2 places. A vast distance between them. He slammed his hand on the table. The cutlery jumped. Whose side are you on, Claire? His composure was gone. His face was red. My own, I said quietly. I kept setting the table. He stared at me. He saw a stranger. The woman he had lived with for decades was gone. In her place was someone calm, someone unmovable. It unnerved him. The next day, he moved out. Temporarily, he said. The tension is unhealthy, he said. I'll stay at the club until this is resolved. He packed a bag. He took his important papers. He took the key to the safe deposit box. He did not say goodbye. The house was suddenly, profoundly quiet. It was my house, but it felt like a museum of a life that was now a fiction. I walked through the rooms. I felt no sadness, only a vast, empty space, waiting to be filled with something true. Amanda Pierce filed our counter motions. A motion to dismiss the guardianship petition. A motion for a separate, independent medical evaluation. A motion for temporary financial restraints. To prevent Edward from dissipating marital assets. The court granted the medical evaluation. It denied the temporary restraints. Insufficient evidence of immediate waste, the judge wrote. The dismissal motion would be heard at the same time as the guardianship petition. The main event. The independent psychiatrist was named Dr. Rosenthal. He was older, kinder than Dr. Evans. He spent 4 hours with me. At his office, he conducted his own cognitive tests. More thorough. He interviewed me about my life, my marriage, my feelings. At the end, he said, "Mrs. Vaughn, I can find no evidence of incapacity. You have excellent executive function. You show insight into your situation. Your emotional responses are appropriate, if somewhat restrained. You are not suffering from dementia, delirium, or major psychiatric illness. He wrote a 12-page report. It was unequivocal. He sent it to the court, to Amanda, to Edward's lawyer. This was a major blow to Edward's case. His petition rested on my alleged cognitive decline. 2 doctors now said there was none. Only the concerns of my husband. Edward's response was to double down. His lawyer deposed me. A formal, recorded questioning under oath. It lasted 6 hours. They tried to trip me up, to find inconsistencies. They asked about my new bank account. They implied I was hiding money. They asked about Leo. They suggested an inappropriate relationship. I answered truthfully, calmly. I was a librarian being asked about cataloging. I was in my element. Facts, dates, documents. They came away with nothing. Only the portrait of a lucid, determined woman. But Edward had a final, brutal move. He filed for divorce 2 weeks before the guardianship hearing. It was a tactical masterstroke. In divorce court, the guardianship petition would be put on hold. Divorce court is different. It's about asset division, not capacity. He could argue for a disproportionate share based on my need for support. He could drag it out, bleed me dry of legal funds. He could force a settlement where I got less, much less. Amanda explained it to me. Her voice was grim. He's changing the battlefield, she said. Guardianship was always a risky play for him. Given the medical evidence, divorce is messier, more expensive, but he can use the same narrative there. He can say you are a dependent spouse, that you require alimony, not assets, that he should retain control of the bulk of the estate to provide for you. What do we do? I asked. We fight on both fronts, she said. We contest the divorce. We push for the guardianship hearing to proceed. We show the divorce is a bad faith tactic. And Claire, she paused. We need to uncover his financial motive. There's always a catalyst, a debt, a secret, something that made him need control of all the assets now. We need to find it. The puzzle piece, the why behind the what. I had been so focused on defending myself. I hadn't looked for his motive. Beyond control. But control is usually a means to an end. What was the end? I thought about the last few years. Edward's club dues were expensive. His new car. But we had plenty of money. His pension was solid. Our investments were conservative. Then I remembered something. A year ago, Edward had taken a boys' trip to Las Vegas with some former colleagues. He was gone for 4 days. He came back tired, quiet. He said he'd played golf, lost some money at cards. Nothing serious. But his behavior had shifted subtly after that. The control began to tighten. The narrative began to form. Was that the catalyst? A gambling debt? Something hidden? I had no access to his personal records, but I had access to the house. His study. He had taken his important files. But he was not a perfect man. He might have left a trace. I waited until the next day. I went into his study. It felt like a crime scene. I started with the filing cabinet, the household files, utility bills, tax returns. I pulled out the last 3 years of tax returns. I sat at his desk. I began to read. The numbers were as I remembered. Steady income, solid dividends. Then I saw a footnote. On the second year's return. A statement from a brokerage firm I didn't recognize. Voyager Capital Management. The income listed was significant, but I had never heard of it. Edward handled all the investments. I searched the cabinet for more. I found a file labeled Voyager. It was empty. A placeholder. I searched his desk drawers. The locked one was empty. I looked behind the drawers. I felt under the desk. My fingers brushed against an envelope, taped to the underside of the middle drawer. A classic hiding place. I peeled it off. It was a single sheet of paper. A quarterly statement from Voyager Capital Management, dated 9 months ago. The account was in Edward's name only. The balance was shocking. It was enormous. Nearly $800,000. But the gain-loss column for the quarter was bright red. Negative $217,000. It was a margin statement. He was trading on margin. Borrowing money to trade. Highly risky. He had lost a fortune. In 1 quarter. This was it. The catalyst. He had gambled in the market. And lost. He needed to replenish the losses. Or face a margin call. He needed control of all our assets. To sell them. To cover his debts. My assets. The lake house. The house itself. My security. It was all fuel for his secret fire. I took the statement. I scanned it. I emailed it to Amanda. Found the motive, I wrote. Her reply was 1 word. Bingo. The guardianship hearing proceeded. Despite the divorce filing. Our argument was that the divorce was a tactical maneuver to avoid an adverse ruling on the guardianship. The judge agreed to hear the petition first. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled, quiet. There was no jury, just a judge. Judge Whittaker, a woman in her 60s. She had a reputation for being no-nonsense. Edward sat with his lawyer, a sleek man in an expensive suit. I sat with Amanda. She wore a simple blue suit. I wore a gray dress. I looked like a librarian. I was a librarian. The hearing was procedural. Dry. Edward's lawyer presented his case. He painted a picture of a devoted husband, watching his wife decline, forced to take painful steps. He cited the stove, the medication, the secretive bank account. He presented Dr. Evans's affidavit, the concerns. Then Amanda presented ours. She entered Dr. Rosenthal's report into evidence, the clear finding of capacity. She entered my cognitive test scores. She called Sarah Cohen, the guardian ad litem, to the stand. Ms. Cohen was sworn in. Amanda asked her for her findings. I found Mrs. Vaughn to be articulate, organized, and fully capable of understanding her financial and personal situation, Ms. Cohen said. She expressed clear and consistent wishes to retain her autonomy. I found no functional evidence of incapacity. The concerns raised by Mr. Vaughn appear, in my assessment, to be situational, related to marital conflict, not cognitive decline. It was a devastating testimony from his own court-appointed investigator. Then Amanda played her ace. Your Honor, we would like to offer evidence regarding the petitioner's motivation. She approached the bench. She handed the judge a document. The Voyager Capital statement. This is a recent investment statement for an account held solely by Mr. Vaughn. It shows substantial losses. Losses incurred through high-risk margin trading. We submit that Mr. Vaughn's petition is not motivated by concern for his wife, but by a need to gain control over marital assets, to cover his own secret debts. Edward's face went white. His lawyer stood up. Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. This is a guardianship hearing, not a divorce. Judge Whittaker looked at the statement. She looked at Edward. Overruled, she said. Her voice was quiet. Motivation is always relevant. Mr. Vaughn, is this your account? Edward was sworn in. He looked older, smaller. Yes, Your Honor, he said. His voice was hoarse. And these are substantial losses. Yes. Did you disclose this account to your wife? A long pause. No. Did you intend to use jointly held assets to cover these losses? It was an investment. A bad one. I was trying to recover. By gaining control of all the assets, the judge asked. Her tone was not unkind, just factual. Edward looked at me. For the first time, I saw shame and fear. I was trying to protect us, he whispered. It was the last defense of a fallen man. It convinced no one. Judge Whittaker did not take long. She called for recess. 15 minutes. Then she returned. She read her decision from the bench. This court finds that Claire Elizabeth Vaughn is not an incapacitated person. The petition for guardianship is denied. In light of the evidence presented regarding the petitioner's financial motives, the court further finds the petition was filed in bad faith. The court awards attorney's fees to the respondent, Mrs. Vaughn, to be paid by the petitioner, Mr. Vaughn. This matter is concluded. It was over. In 20 minutes, the legal cage was shattered. I was free. Edward did not look at me. He gathered his papers. He walked out of the courtroom. His lawyer followed. They did not speak. Amanda put a hand on my arm. It's done, she said. You won. I nodded. I felt nothing. No triumph. No relief. Just a profound emptiness. The battlefield was quiet, and I was standing alone in the wreckage. The divorce proceedings were anticlimactic. With the guardianship debacle, Edward's position was weak. His secret debt was exposed. His credibility was shattered. His lawyer advised him to settle. Quickly, before I could go after more. We mediated. It took 2 sessions. Edward wanted the house. I did not. I could not live there. It was a monument to betrayal. I wanted my share of its value. I wanted my lake house back. The lease, we discovered, had a death or divorce clause. It was voidable. I wanted it voided. I wanted half of all marital assets, including the depleted Voyager account. And I wanted my legal fees paid. As ordered by the probate court, Edward agreed. It was a fair settlement. By the numbers. He kept the house. He would have to sell it to pay me. He kept his pension. I kept my own retirement account. We split the investment portfolios. I got the lake house, free and clear. He paid my legal fees. The divorce was final in the spring. 6 months after he moved out. The papers arrived in the mail. I signed them. I returned them. It was a transaction. Like closing a bank account. I sold my wedding ring. I used the money to repair the lake house. The tenant left peacefully. The place was musty, but the bones were good. The lake was still there, calm and blue. Lydia came to help me that first summer. We painted the bedrooms. We aired out the curtains. We did not talk much about Edward. We talked about the past, the good summers, when the children were small, when life was simple. Mark did not come. He called once. He said he was struggling. He said he felt torn. He said he couldn't believe his father would do such things. But he also couldn't believe I would lie. He was stuck in the middle. I told him I understood. I told him I loved him. I told him the door was always open. He said he needed time. I gave him time. I live at the lake house now. Full time. I have a small car. A reliable one. I bought it myself. I have my own bank accounts. I manage my own money. It is not a fortune, but it is enough. I grow vegetables instead of roses. The soil is different here. Less formal. I read a lot. I joined the local library. It is smaller than my old one, but the people are kind. Sometimes, on clear nights, I sit on the porch. I look at the stars reflected in the water. I think about the quiet house in Connecticut. It sold last month. I saw the listing online. The new owners are a young family. They will fill it with different sounds. Better sounds. Edward moved to an apartment in the city, near his club. I heard this from Marion. She calls me sometimes. She apologized for not seeing it. I told her it was designed not to be seen. I do not hate him. Hate would be a connection. I feel nothing for him. He is a stranger. A man who made a series of calculated, cruel choices. And lost. The justice was quiet. It was procedural. It was factual. It left no room for gloating. Only for the silent acknowledgement of truth. My life is my own. It is a smaller life, but it is authentic. Every object in this house is mine. Every decision is mine. The silence here is not oppressive. It is peaceful. I won. But winning, I have learned, is not a celebration. It is a restoration. A return to baseline. After a long, slow theft, the question that remains is not about him. It is about me. How did I live beside a stranger for so long? And when did he decide that my life was a price he was willing to pay?